What's going on, everybody? Good morning and welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown Strategy Show right here on the Stochastic YouTube channel. Yeah, we got Packers, we got Raiders. Fun one today. And maybe we'll even see Davante Adams lock horns with Jair Alexander for the first time since Adams departed Green Bay. We'll see. I don't know. There were some really cool press conferences on these guys earlier in the week. They're both questionable, though, so we're going to see how that one plays out. Either way, Raiders 2-point favorites at home, 45.5 total game. Jordan Love coming off a rough one. Maybe Josh Jacobs keeps the momentum going in this spot. He certainly should against this Packers defense, but we're going to break all of it down top to bottom. You know the drill. No stone unturned here on the Strategy Show. I'm Dave Loughran at Loughie_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. And with me, as always, Matt Gajewski at Matt_Gajewski. What's up, brother?
How we doing, Laffy? Excited for the game tonight. Love the little revenge spot for Davante Adams. Anytime we've got those narratives we can spin into the discussion. Always excited for that. Hopefully we can see some Jordan Love improvement and get a good game on our hands. How are you doing, man?
I'm good, dude. I'm good. I'm feeling good today. Eagles coming off a nice little win there. We'll take that any day of the week. Dude, what about the Cowboys? I thought they could at least keep that game competitive. Oh, holy God. I mean, that was absolutely dreadful. That got picked off on 3 consecutive drives.
Yeah, Sundays have become pretty rough for me after, a full slate of college and then a full slate of NFL. So I was tired battling through it last night, but it's a good Sunday night game. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try my best to stay up and watch as much of this as I possibly can. Then boom, instantly Kittle touchdown. Cowboys, quick, get rid of the ball. Boom, Kittle touchdown. I'm like, all right, I'm going to bed. So I didn't catch like the last 3 quarters of it, but I saw the beginning of what ended up being a bloodbath.
By the way, I didn't stay up for it either. I went to bed at halftime. I was like, I've had a long day. Yeah. At that rate, there was just very little. There was no way that they were coming back from that. I don't know. Dreadful. Miami bounced back. Tyreek Hill is just, God, I love that guy. I love watching that dude play football. Devon Achane once again with 100 yards per attempt. But Raheem Mostert, I'll go back to this again. Raheem Mostert wasn't uninvolved. Go look at their touches. I think they had the same amount. I think Raheem Mostert might have out-targeted him by 1, and it was 11-8 or something as far as carries go. That's a backfield to pay attention to, although Achane looks fantastic. The Bills lose in London to a Jags team that had been there for 2 weeks straight. Any other spots that stood out to you for this week that I'm missing? I'm sure that. I'll give you another one. Wasn't it lovely to just see Breece Hall run wild? That guy is so unbelievably good at the running back position, man. He's so good.
Yeah, I'm sick of Dalvin Cook too. So that was a breath of fresh air. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple teams I think are really interesting moving forward. For DFS purposes, it could have been an awesome day for me, but Anthony Richardson kind of ended it prematurely, which sucked. So I ended up with a lot of min cashes in stuff that likely would have turned my day into something quite profitable had he not gone down. But that Colts team, they're live to make some noise that Anthony Richardson can stop taking unnecessary hits. I love the mobility, and we've seen mobile quarterbacks have success in the NFL, kind of squashing the narrative that mobile quarterbacks get hurt more. But Anthony Richardson is just inviting unnecessary hits on plays where like Lamar or Jalen would go down, take a knee, or get out of bounds. He's just trying to run through guys, and his body's paying the price. Now he'll go on IR. So we'll see if Minshew can keep this team afloat while he's recuperating. But man, the Colts Josh Downs is giving them something. Like that Colts team is a lot better than I thought they were going to be. Houston continues to impress me. Hold
on real quick, though. How about Zach Moss against one of the best run defenses in football?
Yeah. I don't know what happened with.
Dude, he destroyed yesterday with Jonathan Taylor back. I know in a limited capacity. Zach Moss against the Tennessee team that's given up no rushing production to anyone all season long came out there and bowled them over for 4 straight quarters.
Yeah, I thought Jim Irsay had some balls, but apparently he doesn't. The whole offseason, he's talking about not paying running backs. Second, Jonathan Taylor cries a little bit. He gives him $43 million. only to be a poor man's Zach Moss. So I don't know what the Colts are doing.
God, is that not poetic in the Colts? You look at you look at the climate of running backs, right? And you know that, like, look at the Eagles, right? They get Swift for nothing, right? A pack of smokes. They have Kenny Gainwell, who they drafted in the 4th round. They have no problem running the football. They haven't paid a running back in how long? And then, like you said, Jim Irsay is like, yeah, we're not going to do that. They finally do. 3 years, $42 million or whatever it was, only for a day later, 2 days later, Zach Moss to come out and drop like 160 some yards and multiple scores.
Yeah, complete disaster. It's frustrating. I'm not a Colts fan, and I'm happy anytime someone gets the bag. So good for Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, dumb move by the GM in the front office there. I guess a couple other just quick takeaways. I'm still impressed with Houston. Atlanta's going to keep playing these like grimy games, but Houston's live in almost every game now. And then Cincinnati turned it around. I would be a little hesitant to think this is going to continue moving forward. They played a bottom 5 team in the NFL in Arizona and still allowed 20 points. That offensive line is going to be an issue. They need T. Higgins back. Jamar Chase just cannot have 20 target games if this team's actually going to be competitive in the AFC. But then again, that division's not good. I mean, I'm disappointed with the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns at this point. So I guess one of them is going to have to win it. So we'll see. Any other takeaways for you?
The Steelers lead the division. Can you believe?
And they're the worst team in that division.
I know. I'll say this much, though. Joe Burrow, by far, I don't care if he was facing a bad defense, like by far the best game, because he actually could throw deep in this game for the first time all year. His yards per attempt was under 5 yards going into the game. It's horrible. Any other things for me? I'm going to keep backing the Falcons in those type of games from a betting stance, from a betting perspective, because like those are the only type of games they can win right now. I'm with you too. I thought CJ Stroud acquitted himself well. Nothing against that. But that was kind of a comeback down the earth spot as far as they're coming off 2 huge wins, big destructive wins. Atlanta coming off 2 bad losses. I'm not surprised to see Atlanta get that win at home. The Patriots are toast. It's over. Does Bill Belichick get fired mid-season is the question now. Like that team is really rough. Our friend Stephen Leibowitz said it's been a fun morning on sports radio. Yeah, dude. This is the first time you've seen the Patriots be real bad in a while, for sure. I'm trying to think if there was anything else. Eagles, Jalen Carter's an absolute force. As you would say, dude's a wagon. He is outstanding. Hassan Reddick came back into the mix. Cooper Kupp immediately targeted 12 times in that game. It's going to be the Kupp and Puka Nacua show going forward. Their combined target share had to have been 70% yesterday. Any other spots? There had to have been a couple.
There are a couple of injuries like J. Jeff, Kelsey,
Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I did. The line finally got him killed.
It's a shame. Ben always talks about how tough he is, and he really is. Like, he really is tough. But when you're getting hit 47 times a game, what are you supposed to do?
There's only so many car accidents you can take.
Yep, exactly. The Broncos are a colossal disaster.
That game was the best game all day. If you just wanted to see 2 teams continually try to lose, that game was hilarious.
As I love to say, try and rip defeat from the jaws of victory. Both of those teams were trying, but Breece Hall's a stud, man. He is just so fantastic. I absolutely love him. I'm sure there's more. We'll get into all of it at some other point, maybe tomorrow. But until then, let's talk some Showdown. Ben and I do the Showdown strategy show tomorrow, the first look strategy show tomorrow, and the podcast exclusive, only found on our podcast platforms. Check that out, guys. You will love it. I promise you. Single entry 3-max conversation, but we also go into our post lineup simulator and break down all of the winning lineups, what worked, what didn't, and all of that stuff. It's super helpful. We keep it under 30 minutes. It helps me every week. I think you'll love it. So all of our stuff, all of these shows are in podcast form, but if you want some exclusive stuff only found on podcast platforms, go subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever it is. Jacob said, I forgot about the Laporta 2 touchdown. Yeah, I don't need any more victory laps on that, dude. Laporta is legit. Like, he's the next Travis Kelce. I'm telling you right now, that dude is so good. He's so good, Matt.
Yeah, he's awesome. Makes me wonder like how they couldn't figure out how to use TJ Hawkinson, and Sam Laporta comes in immediately, dominates, and both those guys from Iowa, 2 great tight ends.
Yeah. It is funny though. You had Hawkinson and Swift, and it's like now you have Gibbs and Laporta. Cool, I guess. But anyway. Anyway.
Our friend Kyle Dvorak had the best tweet about the Jahmyr Gibbs situation. He's like, oh, you trade the same player as Jahmyr Gibbs to the Philadelphia Eagles for pennies. Then you go out and spend a first rounder on the same player. Congratulations or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
It was the best.
And they actually passed up Jalen Carter to get Gibbs.
Yeah, anyone who passed on Jalen Carter should be questioned.
Well, Matt,
including
he's a
my
criminal.
Chicago Bears.
He's a criminal.
He drove his car fast. Whomst amongst you has not driven your car fast in your youth?
I told you in my youth, the many bad things should have happened to me. But hey, let's get into it. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Show us some love around here. Atone for your sins on a Monday morning. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't done so yet. Help us on that steep climb to 100K. Let's talk Packers and Raiders. Packers 2-point dogs here. Now, on Wednesday, when I recorded the picks for every game video, they were 2.5-point favorites. So significant swing here on this one throughout the week. Aaron Jones is questionable. I assume he plays. I actually want to start here, though, Matt, because we're talking about somebody that returned last week. I thought it was kind of odd. This was also a primetime game Thursday night, and he was extremely limited. Now, how much of that is them just playing from behind early? I don't know. I can tell you this much, though. And I did like A.J. Dillon, not last week, but coming into last season, not this season. I saw enough last season. That's all I can tell you. But coming into last season, I was like, A.J. Dillon, could be a guy that he had so many goal line touches the year prior. And then last season, just dreadful. This year, he's been even worse. He has 44 carries. He's averaging 2.7 yards per attempt. He's not viable in the passing game. So if Aaron Jones plays and is limited again, and you're relying on an A.J. Dillon or strictly on the arm of Jordan Love, whose advanced metrics look very bad this year, this could get to be some trouble. What are you doing with Aaron Jones, assuming he's good to go? He has the third highest captain ownership right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, if he actually comes in third highest owned, this will be something I monitor throughout the day, of course. But there's significant downside that you mentioned. He hasn't practiced in full, and I don't know if he's going to be limited. We already saw that the Packers are willing to play him in a limited capacity. If that's in the range of outcomes and he's the third most owned player on the slate, I'll happily pivot. And it's not just because, all right, he's expensive in a limited role. We have alternatives that are highly projected as well. So you do have opportunity cost just playing Aaron Jones to begin with. Now you factor in he might be potentially limited in this spot. At the third highest ownership, that's what does it for me. And that's what makes him a pretty decent fade, in my opinion. Plus, like Matt LaFleur, he needs to be questioned. Giving A.J. Dillon this much opportunity, I don't care who the guy is, how high you drafted him. Patrick Taylor needs to play over A.J. Dillon. Emmanuel Wilson needs to play over A.J. Dillon.
You're
A.J.
right.
Dillon is running out there like he's wearing jeans.
Or cinder blocks.
It's unbelievable. He's worse than James Conner. He's worse than Madison. He's worse than Dalvin Cook. He is the worst running back who's touched the field this year.
What, you think?
Yes. Who is worse
hold
than
on.
A.J. Dillon?
Let me back up, because I've been saying how bad he's been as well. On top of that, he's been terrible. Absolutely putrid. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe he is the worst running back that's touched the ball this year. When he's in the backfield and gets the ball, you're pretty much just locking it up for maybe 2 yards. Like he's done. What's his long? What do you think his longest run is this year?
4 yards.
Let's see.
You might as well play 10 and 11.
His longest runs per game are 7, 8, 14, and 6. Like that's terrible. Terrible stuff.
He is the worst running back to take a snap this year. Matt LaFleur, he eventually has to start answering for these coaching decisions.
You know what? I may take a slightly different approach than you do on Aaron Jones. I'm going to tell you why. I think it's significant that he played last game. Now he wasn't involved. We don't know if he would have been good because he only touched the ball 6 times. But I don't think we should ignore the fact that it's been almost 2 weeks since he's played. They played on a Thursday night, and now they're playing on a Monday night. That's 12 days ago that he stepped on the field. That should be enough time, you would hope, to recover from something like this, or at least get in better shape than you were last game where you were active but limited.
I 100% agree with everything you said. The real difference maker for me was the ownership. Like it's almost like we're automatically assuming all of that to be true. And I think it's more likely than not. But if there's a chance he's limited even in any capacity, the third highest ownership is a lot. He's also expensive. We have Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, the quarterbacks on this slate. I happen to think a guy like Christian Watson's live too. There's alternatives in this expensive range. But I 100% agree with you. He's the best player the Packers have. They should, if he's healthy, give him as much work as he can possibly handle. He just gives him the best chance to win. I think the question is, how likely is he to play that role versus where the field thinks he is and how likely he is to play that role.
Yeah, exactly. Now, look, I'm not arguing any of that. And
I'm not arguing with you either.
I know. I know. What I'm saying is if the ownership is up there, then, then that's what makes the difference. But given how bad AJ Dillon is, you know what the problem is though? That I'm not sure Matt LaFleur is going to budge on this, and he might just continue to give him opportunities if it's a competitive game. Aaron Jones, let's say he's 95% healthy, that guy should be getting 85% of touches in the backfield. I'm not sure people understand how good a healthy Aaron Jones is. He's one of, my opinion, personal opinion, one of the best running backs in the league as far as versatility. I think he is that good. I love Aaron Jones. I think he's that good. So the difference on a showdown slate is that he's a game breaker, Matt. Like he's the type of guy that can break a game wide open from a showdown perspective. So it's just a matter of whether or not he's healthy for me, because he's expensive. He's what is he? The third highest priced guy on the slate, second highest priced, third highest behind Adams and Jacobs. It's Jones, but then in the backfield besides him, it's always like, yeah, well, it's a showdown slate, so we have to talk about the guys behind them, especially when it's kind of a timeshare. The biggest question for me is, given how bad AJ Dillon's been and that it's only one slate tonight, what are you doing with AJ Dillon?
Xing him out, probably. I don't know. Okay. I'm not actually going to do that, but I can't imagine I would get very much of him to begin with. And it's not just that he's awful. He's 4,600 in what should be a reduced workload than what he's been receiving to date. So he's kind of priced as if he's, a lead back in a timeshare almost, or like the 1B in a timeshare, where this opportunity should swing towards Aaron Jones if he's healthy. And I think with AJ Dillon, you also run the risk of Matt LaFleur eventually waking up out of his coma and realizing that Patrick Taylor's better than him. And we've seen this a little bit, AJ Dillon coming off the field in recent weeks situationally. But man, it's hard to believe you have an analytics department, you have the tape from the games, and you still give this guy snaps. He should be inactive.
He shouldn't be on the field. He shouldn't be dressed. You're right.
He should be selling Miller Lights in the stadium.
By the way, when you asked Eric if he was at a middle school dance, I lost it on the Live Before Lock yesterday. That was solid. I actually felt bad for you. I had like secondary embarrassment for you when he started singing Nelly.
Yeah, I just let him go when he starts singing.
It was good stuff. What's it called? Something embarrassed. It's not second. It's like if you're embarrassed for somebody else, there's a word for it. Chat will bail me out on this. But yeah, would you play Patrick Taylor today?
There's so much that just needs to be assumed with his backfield. First of all, he has to be active because Jones will be there. I think he will be, but he's also somebody that's, probably going to get just a handful of snaps. With that said, if he does take over for AJ Dillon at any point, he's the stone minimum. So this would be like a Millie Maker style play. I'm probably not going to get him in anything that's like under 100,000 entries, probably.
All right. What about Jordan Love and these pass catchers? Because Jordan, look, I'm not saying that Love hasn't had some upside, because he certainly has, and that's one area where I think we have to, separate one from the other. Jordan Love, from a fantasy perspective, hasn't been bad at all. If you round up, he's gone 20 plus DraftKings points in all 4 games this year. The first 2 games, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The issue that I have is when you're looking at stuff like adjusted completion percentage and his it's bad. Okay. It's actually, he's actually been bad, but that's not really identifiable just by looking at fantasy production. But back it up for a second. How much does that actually matter, I guess, would be the biggest question here. Is that important to us? If he's going to be, playing from behind in a couple spots and chuck the ball around. Now, of course, you haven't had Aaron Jones, or at least a healthy Aaron Jones, for almost the entirety of the season so far. So then you've got more on Jordan Love's hands. But yeah, he has struggled. He has a adjusted completion percentage is among actual starters is the worst in all of the NFL thus far for guys that have started, more than one game.
There's absolutely concerns with him. The offensive line's been pretty banged up, and Bakhtiari going out for the year definitely doesn't help them. So, I mean, they're facing Max Crosby and some pretty good pass rushes on the other side. He's been under duress a lot, and I don't think that helps a young signal caller either with some of those efficiency metrics. With that said, for DFS purposes, he kind of masks some of his inefficiencies with the mobility he possesses. The guy's averaging 22 points per game on DraftKings specifically. And we've seen this a ton with mobile quarterbacks. Anthony Richardson at times this year hasn't been the best passer, but the mobility he has, which is better than Love's, it makes up for so much. So even if Love scrambles a few times, the floor he provides is excellent. I actually like him as a price-adjusted play when considering ownership on this slate quite a bit, especially at the captain spot, where he's the 4th most expensive player on the slate. Pretty easy to stack, and the Packers receivers are affordable. If you do that, you can jam guys like Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Jones, and I don't hate playing them together because of Aaron Jones' pass-catching ability. You save some salary by playing Love at captain, and I do think that goes a long way. Plus, he's not going to be among the most owned captains when you look at Adams, Jacobs, Jones on the other side.
Secondhand embarrassment. Thank you, guys. That's what it was. Secondhand embarrassment. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, with Jordan Love, how is he as a rusher? Like, is he someone, because last game against Detroit, he had no time to run. They just hammered him behind in the pocket. But as far as like his abilities, how mobile is a Jordan Love compared to some of the other mobile quarterbacks? Or just like, I know he's not statuesque, right? I know he's not one of those guys that can't move at all, but is he just pretty much middle of the road as far as that goes? Like, he's nowhere near Lamar, Jalen Hurts, or Anthony Richardson, but he's also not somebody that's just a Matt Ryan statue in the pocket either.
He kind of reminds me of like Mahomes, where Mahomes is pretty athletic. Yeah. But where they differ is like when Mahomes is escaping the pocket, he's always looking downfield, and a lot of times he's turning those into big plays. When Love's escaping the pocket, he's just turning up the field. The guy ran a 4.74 40 coming out of Utah State. He's never really had like a good play caller around him. Their offensive coordinator was incompetent. And Matt LaFleur might be that too. So it's tough.
Is he one of your favorite captain plays right now?
For larger fields, yes. For the leverage he provides. I want to go back to Aaron Jones just briefly. If I was playing a smaller field, I'd have a lot more interest in him at captain there, where you don't need to get quite as different. But once you're talking milli maker stuff, if you're playing any of like the low dollar, high entries where it's like 100,000 field person tournament, that's where I think Love is really interesting because of the leverage he provides at captain and what else you can do in your lineup stacking wise with him. So yes, for larger field, Love is one of my favorite leverage guys at captain.
Looking at pass catchers, you've got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, the rookie Jaden Reed. Now, we saw last week Christian Watson made his return, or his debut for the season, really. And he did get him some involvement. I believe he scored as well. But Dobbs played 88% of snaps, Reed 67, Wicks 58, Watson 46. We have to assume now that he's been back for another week and he's good to go, that Watson's snap count, I mean, full-time starter role, right? Alongside Romeo Doubs.
I would guess so. And I think that comes primarily at the expense of Wicks.
Yeah, you has to, right? It has to. Wicks playing 60% of snaps last week. I don't think you want to take Jaden Reed off the field, especially with them lining up. You know, Jaden Reed, how much has he played out of the slot?
That's where he plays. And Wicks
That's
is
what I mean.
guy.
Like almost everything's out of the slot. So
yes.
So he's not going to get burned as much by something like this. You would have to think that Christian Watson, if he gets up to like 80, 90%, that Wicks takes a big hit. Torrey played 19% of snaps. So as far as we'll get into target share in a second, but just looking at actual snap share and opportunity being on the field, how do you see this playing out today?
I think it's almost exactly what you laid out. Reed in the slot, Doubs and Watson on the perimeter with situational Wick snaps. I don't think we see any Torrey. If we do, it's probably like 3 snaps here. He's also a perimeter receiver, so he'd be the first guy that gets the axe even before Wicks. But yeah, I think the Packers largely just stick with their 3 wide that we kind of were predicting in the offseason.
Agreed. Doubs in that game against Detroit, 13 targets.
He had a good game.
Yeah, 9 for 95 on 13 targets, ran 37 routes. Christian Watson ran 18. He was targeted 4 times, so that's fine. I was curious though when I went back to look at this. I was like, were we gonna see a like Wan'Dale Robinson making his return, running 9 routes but targeted 5 times? It definitely wasn't the case. Jaden Reed was targeted 5 times. Romeo Doubs 13. I think it's fair to assume that you probably see pretty equal distribution of targets for Watson and Doubs on a week to week basis. You know, obviously it could flip depending on the week, but overall, I would probably be projecting a pretty even distribution of targets between Doubs and Watson, and then Reed getting less, but the number 3.
Yeah, I think this is going to ebb and flow quite a bit. On the season, Reed isn't that far behind Doubs. We've seen them both pop up for big target games, and Watson definitely is going, I mean, he should be the number 1 for this team, but is he like a Devontae Adams number 1 complete target dominator? Or is this a little bit more spread, like a Giants or a Washington or something like that? I tend to agree with you that it's going to be a little spread, and we could see these guys pop up for big targets at any point in time. I think the only difference is I think Reed isn't too far behind these 2 guys either.
Yeah, I'm not saying he is. I just think once Watson gets back to a full-time role, that he's got to be like the 1A or something like that.
Oh, yeah, we agree there.
You know what sucks about Green Bay, though, and certain teams are just easier on Showdown than others. This Packers team, you still have Doubs, Watson, Jaden Reed. Musgrave left last game with a concussion, but he's not on the injury report, so you have him. You have Aaron Jones in the passing game, assuming that he's good to go and he's involved. Maybe Wicks gets a couple opportunities, but clearly much further down there. Same with Torrey. How are you, and we have to factor price into this as well. How are you trying to figure that? How are you trying to square this one up? Because if you look at the flex spot, look at the price points on these guys. Doubs is 8,200, Watson 7,800, Reed is 6,200, Musgrave is 5,200. Unless you're going all the way down to like a Wicks or something who's at 200, or Torrey at 1,400, these guys aren't really cheap. And now we're going to have to figure out what is the best direction to take on a slate like this. If you're someone that's only playing a handful of lineups, if you're maxing out contests, it's a lot different. You just end up getting a lot of them.
Yeah, I love paying down for the Packers because I do think their targets are going to be spread, especially when you start considering Musgrave. The injury last week hurt, but this guy's been really involved when he's been fully healthy. So he immediately is also going to siphon some targets away from those receivers. If we're now spreading it among 4 guys, I just don't really see the need to pay 8,200 for Romeo Doubs when you can go down and play Musgrave at 52. You can play Reed at 62. And the way I've been building this morning and finding some lineups I really like is 4 studs. You can play one of the studs at captain. Then you punt once. There's plenty of punts. You can play Wicks. You can play Hooper, whatever you want to do, punting. And then you get 1 mid-range guy left. And I love throwing darts on these Packers receivers in this mid-range. My favorite's probably Musgrave, just saving the most salary. How different are his targets than Dobbs or Watson? So far, when he's been healthy, we've seen that they're not that different. So I'll just pay down. And plus, another thing here, like Dobbs at 8,200. Now I'm choosing probably between like Dobbs versus Aaron Jones, Dobbs versus Jacobs and Adams. The Raiders are way more condensed than the Packers. So I'm going to be prioritizing Raiders studs and then paying down a little bit more with the Packers.
I have no issues with that. That is obviously under the assumption that Devontae Adams is active. Yes. I think he plays. Got a limited practice on Saturday, but I think he plays, Matt. I don't know.
Yeah, guy's a warrior. He played through the injury last game, and it didn't look good. I did not think he was going to return, and he came back out there.
He did.
Adams is a tough guy, man.
Not only did he come back out, but Aiden O'Connell, targeted him like 40 times on that one drive. He did. He targeted, I think he targeted him like 7 times for 7 receptions or 5 or 6, whatever. It was a ton. It's like you should have been doing that all game, man.
Yeah, now you're playing from behind and you're doing it.
Yeah, I know, but
that's so frustrating to me. Like when teams, they're so cute during the middle of games and then they're, trying to score with a 2-touchdown deficit. And suddenly their best players are getting looks every single time. It's like, oh yeah, wonder how you got here.
Exactly. Or when teams have an amazing defensive game plan going into it, they get up early and then they completely change their defense and lay back and give up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, you can also see this, like teams generally are scripting like the first 10 plays or whatever it is of the game. They have like incredible success. And then it's after that, nothing. It's like, can you not make adjustments? Like what were you doing during the first 10 plays when you're supposed to be gathering information on how the defense is playing you? Anyway, that's not here or there.
Teams do that all the time. Like they have an amazing opening drive and then they finish the game with 10 points. All the time.
Eagles and the Rams did that. The second half in those games was horrific.
Eagles second half defensive adjustments were very good. They just started bringing the house. Like they just started like, oh, we have all of these monsters on the line. Let's just actually apply some pressure here.
They also have, like the best coaching staff in the NFL. So adjustments for the Eagles, they're going to do those. The Rams, I don't know. McVay's pretty good, but who knows?
But man, do you know how much of a luxury that is if you're Aiden O'Connell to have a guy like Devontae Adams to just lean on? You know how many other quarterbacks come in the spots, they get thrust into action and they just have nobody? Like having a Devontae Adams who, one of, if not the best overall, well-rounded receiver in football, that's a luxury. Should target him 30 times in a game like that. Seriously, just let him go get it every single time. Anyway, I digress. Final thoughts on the Packers. Favorite cheap guys here that you want to get to, and we didn't talk a ton about Musgrave. If there's anything you want to get to there,
I love Musgrave. He's my favorite price-adjusted pass catcher on the Packers. For cheap guys, they put Wicks right back down at the Stone Min. So Wicks is going to play some snaps. And depending on how healthy you think Watson is, he might actually play it like a decent amount of snaps. For that reason, I'm kind of out on Torre and some of the other really cheap guys for the Packers. With Wicks down there, like, is it necessary to play DeGuara or Torre or Kraft? Unless you're playing the Millie Maker, I don't think you need to get that cute.
Okay. And then as far as like defense and kickers go, I think if you're talking Green Bay here, really either side, it doesn't really matter all that much to me. Carlson, totally fine in a spot like this. Because would it shock you if this ended up being like a grinded out type game? No. I don't look at what kickers have done this season. That means nothing to me. I look at the way that this game should be played, and I think you could see some opportunities there. Green Bay defense, look, I don't have a problem with that either. The run defense has been a problem, but if Devontae Adams isn't 100%, or if that matchup against Jair Alexander makes things difficult, Garoppolo is somebody that has been picked off 6 times in 3 games, Matt. Assuming Alexander, who's questionable, is out there are definitely going to be some opportunities, some ball hawking opportunities for the Green Bay Packers defense. So when it comes to that, when it comes to Carlson, I have no issues on either side. Actually, matter of fact, I think both of them are good plays in this slate.
I agree with you, and I think they might provide some leverage. Generally, when we do have viable punt options, people will go down to players like Wicks, like Hooper, in order to jam an extra stud rather than playing like 2 mid-price guys, including defenses and kickers. So I love them on slates like this.
Yeah. Me too. Yeah, Packers could grab a pick. Like, and I'm 100% okay just going like Garoppolo, Adams, Jacobs, if you can make it work, and Packers defense. I don't really care. You could see some defensive touchdowns in this game for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other thoughts on Green Bay? You want to move this over to the Raiders?
Let's talk some Raiders.
All right. Hey, before we do, guys, if you're new to this channel, or maybe you've been on the fence for a little bit and you're looking for a week of all of our tools for free, I always say when it comes to football, you want to do it at the right time. When you want to get free tools, if you want to get all of the Showdown tools that we have, the top single game and Showdown plays tool, which is a simulation tool in and of itself, ownership projections, player projections, top stack tool, all of our data, the boom bust tool, premium Discord lineup generator, and of course the Holy Grail, the lineup simulator, brand new tool for NFL. It is absolutely awesome. The contest generator, the pre-contest simulator, the post-contest simulator, which you guys should be using every single week after these slates end to evaluate your own lineups and everybody else's, particularly the winners, and see what they're doing right, see what you can change. Every one of our tools, all you have to do is this. Sign up at OwnersBox.com and deposit a minimum of $10. That's it. That is it. Sign up at OwnersBox.com, deposit a minimum of $10. Now, if you have the means, the financial means to do so, max out the bonus. It's a $500 first match deposit bonus. Max that out if you can, especially given the insane overlay that we've seen there week over week to kick off the season. Pretty significant. I mean, very significant overlay that's been there. They have super flex contests. You don't have to play defenses on the main slate, which would have been nice for me again yesterday, where I had a very live team in a couple of mid-stakes single entries with Titans defense. So yeah, 1 point out of Titans defense. I've been really crushing those defensive plays lately, man. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. You don't have to do it there. You can play the quarterback back in the super flex. It's awesome. And the amount of dead money that's been in these contests with the overlay is unthinkable. So if you're not there, link is in the description and in the chat. Sign up. You'll get an email from us. Or if you want to email us to expedite it, support@stokastic.com. You're getting Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, another Showdown slate for Sunday morning, 9:30 Eastern, somewhere in Europe, not sure where. Main slate, afternoon slate, night slate Showdown on Sunday and Monday. If you do it today, that's 7 different slates that you're getting, not including any turbos or whatever. We have content tools for every single one of them. Link in the description and in the chat for OwnersBox. Guys, sign up. Minimum deposit's $10 if you're not there yet. Awesome opportunity to get all of our tools essentially for free and then take advantage, capitalize on those contests in OwnersBox and specifically the overlay that we've been seeing. All right. So Raiders, can we assume Adams plays right now? I think it's fair to say he's going to be out there, or we think he is, right?
That's my assumption. Yeah.
This is such a heavily concentrated offense. I mean, super concentrated offense. Even last week when it was O'Connell in there and not Jimmy Garoppolo, the target share was very significant when you consider that Davante Adams, from when he was on the field, 13 targets. Listen to this target share. 34% Davante Adams, 29% Jacobs. Jacobs was targeted 11 times in that game. Again, I don't think that happens with Jimmy Garoppolo back in the mix. Jacobs was used as a safety blanket, actually performed quite admirably, 8 for 81 in the passing game. And then it was Renfro 10, Jacoby Myers 10. But when Jimmy Garoppolo has been out there and Jacoby Myers and Davante Adams have been out there, those guys are making up 70+% of the target share in the 2 games they played together this season with a healthy Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, this is the place I'm going to be focusing most of my attention on, especially in the captain spot. For small fields, I think you can just plug in Davante Adams or Josh Jacobs, feel pretty good about your lineups. The main difference between the Packers and the Raiders on offense is just how condensed everything is with the Raiders. You did a great job breaking it down. I think these are the guys you want to focus your attention on. Adams, Jacobs, Myers, I would include in this. So if you're going down and looking at players like Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, like I prefer Myers straight up, not even considering price. And then you look, he's cheaper than those guys. They're all pretty easy clicks. And it sort of makes the ancillary pieces for Vegas a little less interesting to me, which has led me into builds where I'm focusing on Jacobs, Garoppolo, Adams, and then getting the cheaper Packers, Reed, Musgrave, players like that. And again, it's pretty easy to build lineups with 4 of these studs. All you have to do is punt once. We have a couple guys you can use, Wicks, Hooper. You play one guy in the mid-range, and suddenly you've got 4 studs. Extremely easy to play Garoppolo Adams. Easy to play Adams Jacobs. And I think that should be where you start, especially if you're playing small field.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, this is the way I see the Las Vegas Raiders. And I mean, it's pretty much just affirming what you were saying. Adams and Myers, I think with Garoppolo back, are the clear 2 guys here. Hunter Renfrow has been essentially non-existent for most of this slate. You called him a coward before the show started.
Maybe that's been a little mean to Renfrow. He's been a sore spot for me going all the way back to his days at Clemson.
Yeah, well, you kind of liked them going into this season too, I think, right?
I also thought, well, the thing with the Raiders, they're not playing with 3 wide receivers on the field all that often. You're seeing Hooper and Mayer on the field together. They use Jacob Johnson, the fullback, a ton. Mm-hmm. They're not an 11 personnel team. So Renfrow probably would play that role, but they're using 2 tight ends. They're using a fullback. They're starting to get their rookie Trey Tucker involved more. All that at the expense of Renfrow. That's like 4 things working against you.
It's not good. But this, honestly, this is probably like a top 3 most concentrated offense this season. If you think about it, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So look, does that mean that we just have to X out everyone else? No, because it's a showdown slate. But Michael Mayer hasn't been involved at all. Ghost.
He's a blocker, dude.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's complete ghost. DeAndre Carter, uninvolved. Austin Hooper, you're looking at 1, maybe 2 targets a game. Abdullah, like those guys, there's just nothing there. It's Adams, Jacobs, and Myers. And then maybe Renfrow gets mixed in a little bit. But with Garoppolo under center, that hasn't been the case. I can say this much, though. With Josh Jacobs, I know he had that just absolutely dreadful performance 3 games ago where he finished with -2 rushing yards. They got shit on 38-10. That game at no point was competitive. And he hasn't exactly been efficient running the ball either. He's averaging like 2.7 yards per attempt this year. This could be a get right spot for him. I'm still not buying into the Green Bay Packers run defense. Okay. I'm not buying into the Green Bay Packers run defense. I don't know if you are, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. But when I look at the Packers and I see, all right, last week, 211 rushing yards. To be fair, Detroit ran the ball 490 times, but still the Packers couldn't stop it either. They couldn't slow it down. So when you look at that and you go like, oh, well, yeah, but David Montgomery only had this many yards on 32 carries. Yeah, but they kept picking up first downs every single time. They couldn't get him off the field. So you're going to keep doing that. Doesn't need to break off 30 yards every single attempt. Against New Orleans, only 77 rushing yards. But who did they have out there? Kendra Miller and Tony Jones? I don't count that. Atlanta, 211 rushing yards allowed. And then to Chicago, 122 rushing yards in the second half. They had a pretty healthy lead. So this is a rushing attack that has really struggled in Las Vegas. But would you be shocked if this is Josh Jacobs' finest rushing performance of the year?
Absolutely not. And to your point, all of these stats need context. I think you did an awesome job providing that.
Oh, hey, thanks.
It was very good. I'll just echo what you said. I was going to say, I think Josh Jacobs can definitely have success here on top of the potential efficiency bump he might see against a Green Bay defense that has questions against the run. This guy's a monster workload. He could just compile his way to an awesome fantasy day. Maybe it doesn't even look that efficient. I happen to think it will, but at the same time, the opportunity is so good for Jacobs, and he's game script independent. That pass game work he saw last week, albeit with Aiden O'Connell, was absolutely awesome. And even if he sees a tick down with Garoppolo, I mean, he's still out there on third downs. Abdullah is not playing really at all. Zamir White's not playing at all. They use a fullback occasionally, but it's a fullback. They're not really involved. Jacobs has arguably the best workload in the NFL. It's right up there with like McCaffrey. He's obviously not McCaffrey caliber talent, but he has all the opportunity in the world. I love Jacobs.
You're totally right. if you were to just throw that week 2 game against Buffalo out the window, because they were, I mean, it was over before it started, even though, to be fair, to your point, he still had 15 looks in that game because he was targeted 6 times, right? Like he didn't score a touchdown and still had 10 fantasy points on -2 rushing yards. Maybe I'm trying to put lipstick on a pig here, Matt, but that actually is not, it's actually not, that's actually impressive when you consider a guy had 10 fantasy points and -2 rushing yards and no touchdowns. You look at week 1, ugly game, but 22 total looks, 19-3. Week 3 against Pittsburgh, they took that loss, 17 attempts, 5 targets. And then week 4 against the Chargers, like you said, they lost, but 17 attempts and 11 targets. Yeah, even if they're playing from behind, you're kind of chalking up like at least 5 or 6 targets for him playing from behind.
It's really hard for him to fail.
Yeah.
It's honestly kind of hard for all the Raiders skill position players not named Garoppolo to fail because it's so condensed. It's so condensed.
Now, listen, the matchup, assuming Alexander and Adams are out there, is going to be awesome. My guess, if I had to lay out, right, here's how I envision this happening. I think they both get the best of each other at times in this game. Like, that's how I see this playing out. They both know each other incredibly well. Davante Adams at a presser earlier this week was like, look, I didn't create that monster, but Alexander has become one. And then he was kind of like, I kind of helped create that monster because they would go up against each other in practice for years, especially when Alexander was a rookie. And who better to help you become a fantastic than Davante Adams? You're going up against every day of the week up until game time. It's going to be an awesome battle. But Adams has to be one of the best, most technical route runners in football, right? Has to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's going to get his. And I highly doubt that this is one of those spots where, remember Revis Island, where Revis would just take a guy out of a game? Remember when they used to use Kawhi Leonard to freeze best players out of a game? I have an impossible time believing that you're just going to see Jimmy Garoppolo not want to still target Davante Adams here. Although I still think it makes Jacoby Myers even that much more interesting if there isn't as much there for Davante Adams as there usually is.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And even if Davante Adams gets his, Jair and Davante get the best of each other at times, we still have a locked-in target share for Jacoby Myers, hyper-condensed between the two in the pass game. Myers has been awesome when he's been healthy. Missed the game already this year, but when he's on the field, Garoppolo looks his way quite frequently too. There's a gap in pricing that I think reflects the difference in target share you'll see here and talent, but man, I'd rather play Myers than any of the Packers receivers in that range.
Yeah, so would I. Steven said, do the Packers use Alexander to shadow? No, I don't assume that he's going to be shadowing Adams, but do you?
I don't think so. Teams aren't really shadowing anymore.
They really don't do it much anymore. You're right. It used to be a big thing. Used to be a really big thing. You just don't see it. And one of the reasons that they don't use in the shadow as much anymore is because it gives too much away a lot of times. Like there's just
so many ways. Yeah. So many ways you can mess up a defense that's playing shadow coverage, use motion. And it's tough. It's really tough to shadow.
Chad said, Laffy, I finished 6 out of 5,800. Is it a top 5 finish for the promotion? It's top 3, but that is awesome, man. Tweet us your win at Stochastic HOF and certainly get it up on the board for you, get you inducted. Not a free month because it's top 3, but that's an amazing finish in an NFL slate. So congrats, dude. What else do you want to talk about with the Raiders? I've just mentioned I love Adams, Jacobs, and I'll play either of them at captain without hesitation. I will play Jacoby Myers at captain happily as well. Have no problems with that. I think Jimmy Garoppolo wants to get in the football. Jimmy Garoppolo is fine. He's been cleared. Those are my 3 favorite plays from this spot. Do you agree? Are those the 3 guys pretty much in that order? Kind of Jacobs, Adams, interchangeable, followed by Myers, who's also a very good play?
Yeah, 100% agree.
Okay. So this is where your expertise comes into play, right? If we're going for some of the kind of trash, if we're going for some of that in Las Vegas, outside of this concentrated deeply concentrated 3 guys, where are you going?
I love the pricing on this slate because, Vegas is really condensed. We want to play the studs. If we had the ancillary pieces priced up at all, they would be easy phase, but they're all like the stone minimum. So now I'm like, damn, Renfrow doesn't play that much, but he's 2,200. Maybe I'll play some Renfrow. Oh, Hooper, only one fewer route than Renfrow. He's 600.
Right.
Michael Mayer, 200. Trey Tucker's playing a somewhat ascending role, and he's probably not a full-time player, but he's not 1,200. He's 200. He's the stone minimum. So you've got 4 guys on the Raiders that I have interest in, not because of any opportunity metrics they've seen this year, but it's like, damn, they play a pretty good amount, and they're all near the stone minimum. And this is what helps you jam in 4 studs at the top. And another good thing about them is there's 4 of them. It's not like a couple slates ago, Wan'Dale Robinson was like the clear guy at 200, and there were no alternatives. So you slot in some studs, you slot in Wan'Dale, suddenly you're holding hands with everybody in the entire field. On this slate, you've got 4 guys to choose from. So anyway, to kind of break them down individually and parse them, I think Renfro's the safest. He also is the most expensive. That just comes from, even though he's not on the field every single play, he has a clearly defined role. It's in pass game sets. He's playing on the slot. So that's pretty friendly, even though he's not quite playing the role we thought he would at the beginning of the year. My second favorite is Hooper. He is the receiving tight end. It is not Michael Mayer. For whatever reason.
No, you're right.
Hooper
just like Jonnu Smith is the receiving tight end for Atlanta and not Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. I know
of weird Pitts was involved, but go ahead.
But yeah, man, Hooper only had 1 fewer route than Renfrow, which is nuts. Otherwise, Trey Tucker would be third for me, 13 routes for him. Mayer, he's just a blocker. So he would be last in this ranking order for me of these cheap Raiders. But yeah, I like playing them all because they're extremely cheap and they let you jam studs.
11 target game for Pitts yesterday was encouraging. How about Ritter going for 300 plus yards?
Yeah, I got to take some L's. I was not nice to him on Live Before Lock.
Well, I think it's reasonable. Jonnu Smith had 7 targets, 6 for 67. That was crazy. And it sucks because I loved Bijan Robinson. I had some amazing lineups with like A-Chain, or it would have been Bijan with either Devon A-Chain or Breece Hall, with Tyreek Hill, with Dallas Goedert, AJ. Like I had just some wild lineups that had Bijan Robinson, and he finished with like 10 or something. It was brutal. Thank God.
I feel your pain. I had a lot of really good lineups that had Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, right. And Richardson, that sucks. There were a lot of injuries.
That's just how it goes sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. Now they're saying Richardson could be out over a month because it's a grade 3 AC sprain.
He's a moron, man. He's got to not take those hits. I'm a moron too, so let's take that for what it's worth. But
maybe they're just not used to getting when you come into the NFL, you're getting hit by behemoths every single time that are faster and stronger than anything you played against.
When he was on the field at Florida, he was the best player every single time he sat on the field by a pretty wide margin. He's very good in the NFL, but he's not the best player by a wide margin anymore.
Right. Yeah, it's a difference for sure. Final thoughts on the Raiders, defense, kicker, any other options here that you want to talk about before we build a lineup and get out of here?
I think this Raiders defense is pretty sneaky. Max Crosby in this pass rush should have a field day against a very weak offensive line for the Packers. And Jordan Love, you mentioned this, he's not been the best in terms of his efficiency metrics. I also don't think people are going to play this range. We mentioned the 18 Raiders cheap guys you can get to. The Packers have a few with Wicks in there as well. So I think people are going to gravitate towards stars and scrubs. Kickers, defenses, I think will go overlooked a little bit. With the Raiders having a good matchup, I actually like them quite a bit here.
Me too. I like both defenses, both kickers. Pretty simple in that case. Let's build a lineup before we get out of here. What do you think?
Let's do it. I think you're first for captain today, right?
Yes, I will go first. One other thing, guys. If you expand the description here, whether you're on your phone, whether you're on desktop, you'll see Bet365. Now, if you're not in these 6 states, hang tight for a minute. All right? Do what you got to do. Go take a piss or something before we build this lineup. But if you're in Colorado or Virginia or Ohio, or you're in New Jersey or Iowa, you're getting $150 when you bet $5 at Bet365. I'm looking at Jacob's dog in the back. Jacob's producing this show. He told me, I had no idea. I've been telling everyone I can that out there in the West, they have coyote dog mixes because the coyotes sneak into the yard. And was that what happens? They just pound them out? Yeah, they just pound them out, pound out the big dogs. And what is that, a coyote shepherd mix? Incredible. I had no idea that was a thing, that you could domesticate that type of animal. I also saw a report the other day in a science article that they found the first fox dog ever. Pretty cool. He died. Anyway, if you're in Colorado, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, or Iowa, right? Or Ohio as well, you're getting $150 on $5 bet. Now you deposit 10, click the link in the description or in chat if you want to get it. All you have to do is put a $5 bet on anything. My recommendation is always, since it's only $5, put a nice little parlay down. So if you win, you're like, oh, nice. Got some nice chunk of change, build the bankroll, and I got the 150. If you lose, who cares? Because you got the 150 coming. You're making $150 in 2 minutes. It's that simple. You're depositing 10. You're only betting 5. You're making 150 in 2 minutes. That's it. $75 a minute just to go over there, take 2 minutes to sign up, verify yourself, deposit, get a bet down that you were going to do anyway. And you're going to be on another book now, so you can shop odds. You're getting free money. And if you are in Kentucky, they have just launched sports betting earlier last month. This still bet $1 on a $10 deposit and get $365. Bet one, get $365 in Kentucky. The other states, bet 5, get $150. Still fantastic. It's free money. Kentucky, bet 1, get $365. Link in the description and chat. They get rid of these real quick. They change them up quick. No idea how long it's going to be around for. Jump in while you can. It's a great free money-making opportunity. Must be 21 years or older to gamble. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus in Kentucky, by the way. You guys got it made down there. All right, let's talk about a lineup build. Then we'll toss it over to Josh. He's got MLB strategy show coming up next. Stay tuned for that. And his NFL contenders for tonight's Showdown slate. Quick, short video gets you in and out. They're already up on the channel, so make sure to watch them. I'll go first at captain. You know what, Matt? I think I want to play Jacobs here. I think this could be the Jacobs game. I'm going to play this lineup for a Jacobs breakout game this season, given the workload and the condensed offense that you and I talked about all show.
No problem with Jacobs. On the other side, I am going to play Jordan Love in this pass game.
All right. I like it. You know what I want to try? I don't know if it's, can we just try doing something wild here? Do you think,
absolutely.
Do you think if we go Adams and Jacobs without Garoppolo, we can build out a decent rest of the lineup? Or would you want to? Okay.
100% we can. I've done it already.
Have you? Okay, let's do it. Yeah. So let's go Adams. I also think the lineups, if you're just trying to be wildly different with Myers in there, would make sense too. But let's go Adams. That leaves us 43.66 per player. We've got 3 spots left.
Yeah, and I think there's about 6 guys at or near the stone min you can play. Austin Hooper, his route share, I mean, he was over 50% of the routes last week. 28 routes on 49 dropbacks. He's not targeted a ton, but at $600, does he need to be targeted more than like 4 times in a game? The answer to me is no. He's playing ahead of Mayer as the receiving tight end. He'll leave some salary for us. So I'll throw in Hooper at 600.
All right, let's go Hooper at 600. I like it.
And if you don't like him, play Wicks, play Tucker, go up to play Renfro. There's tons of guys. He's just the one I chose.
Absolutely. God, you could actually just go 2 punts. You could go Aaron Jones here. You know what? I'm gonna go Christian Watson.
Yeah, to your point, you can go Aaron Jones Renfro with Christian Watson in there. That actually puts us in a range I really like. We're right in this defense kickers area.
Yep.
I don't have
We've got one pass catcher to pair with Love. We've got Love with Christian Watson.
Yeah, we're good. And he's not a captain. I kind of like using the Raiders defense out of this group. We have Love and Watson in there, but I mean, you're going to have to play some Packers against your defense regardless. Jacobs is the captain, little mini correlation. I love the matchup the Raiders pass rushers have against this poor Green Bay O-line.
Love it. Leaving money on the table as well. I have no problem leaving 900 on the table whatsoever.
And
it's
with the last
stuff.
two guys, there's so many things you could do. You could go Aaron Jones with Renfro. You could do Watson with a defense kicker. You could also go like Jaden Reed, Musgrave, and play two mid-price guys. There's so much viability on this slate, which I love. You can play so many different lineups that look great and not have to worry about as much duplication.
Yeah, and you're right. If you want to go Jacobs, Adams, Jones, you can absolutely do it.
I feel pretty good about this lineup. I'm not worried about the punt with Hooper. And if you are, play Renfro, play Wicks, whoever it is.
Yep, it's doable. Fun because one team is very spread out, and we don't know what Watson and Jones are going to look like this week as far as opportunity. We think Watson will get a lot. I hope Jones will. And then just an insanely condensed opportunity share for the Raiders. Two different teams. Anyway, follow Matt at Matt_Gajewski on Twitter. You definitely should. Especially if you're an NFL, college football guy specifically, go follow him. Follow me as well at Loughran_D to see semi-coherent ramblings once in a while. You'll enjoy yourselves. LOUGHY_D. And shout out as always to Jacob for producing this one. Josh, coming up, MLB strategy show for tonight's 2-game slate. We'll see you back here for the next one, guys. And tonight, of course, live before lock, deeper dive. We got you covered for this Raiders-Packers game. Peace.